Okay, I think we'll get started. Councillor Shanks, you wanted to move. Thank you. Want to move that forward? Okay, so seconded by Councillor Samble that we move item 16.2 forward. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. So, Nathan, you can present your motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Elected members, I sent through a markup that I did earlier today, and I've also provided you with a hard copy there. This is an excerpt of a report that Council commissioned back in 2019, if you recall, in regards to contaminants and EPA requirements of the old landfill site. I purposely used this document to mark up to show the potential that I think is being overlooked of the site. And with a little bit of extra investigation, Council will be able to understand the potential of activation of that space. If the activation of that space results in a location that the car club can finally call home, happy days. But the main reason for this motion is to inform us on a parcel of land that we currently have in our portfolio that remains unactivated. If you can see the way that I've marked it up, there's a couple of notes that I've highlighted in the top corner where I'm pointing out the bottom note talks about the hatching that you can see, the purple hatching throughout the plan. That notes landfill and old brick works usage. Now, judging by the satellite images that are in the report that was received in 2019, it shows the movement, historical movement over the last, I think it was nearly 100 years. The part where I've noted the sheds actually has remained unchanged. So what I would say, if I was to recommend to a client of mine where the best buildability spot or where the best investigation should be, it would be along that boundary that I've noted A, B, and C for a potential location of a 27 by 12 shed, which aligns with the car club's size. I won't go through the preamble because that's why I put it in there, and also I thank the Mayor for allowing the length of it. I think it clarifies why I believe these tests are needing to be done. I was hoping to have a structural engineer here tonight so we could talk to soil bearing capacity and KPA requirements, but the crux of it is if we received a 200 KPA reading at a depth 2 meters, 3 meters, whatever it is, we would get very close to a standard style detail needed to build that shed on a perfect site, for example. But regardless of that, even if we did find a KPA rating at say 6 meters, the general footing would be a 2 meter deep anyway. So what we're talking about is an additional 4 meters that would be potentially needed if you were to build a shed that found the KPA at a 6 meter depth. Now I understand that some of this language might be a little bit of jargon, but what I'm trying to say is the site's viability, in my mind, is certainly not off the table, given the bore log reports that the car club have provided, and I've done a little bit of an assessment there, talked to a structural engineer on the viability of this site, and then also based on our own extensive report back in 2019, I think we just need to dig a little bit further and we need to do the right tests to figure out our soil bearing capacity and see what options we have moving forward for this site.
Do I have a seconder? I'll I think Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak at all?
Yeah, I'm happy to second the motion, but many years ago I was the chair of Employment Directions, and there was a number of transportable buildings actually in the front of that area, and where the hatching is, and majority of the transportable, the footings didn't move, but there was, like, if you had 5 footings, one of the 5 or something would move. So it is an unstable site, but I think it is a site that you can find stable ground and actually work with. And I think what Councillor Shanks is talking about is if you do have an unstable area, just actually add extra depth to your foundation, is my understanding as a layman. He's nodding his head. So yeah, I think trying to co-locate with the men's shed and other activities, it is a really big site. There is some contaminated land issues as well, but it is a really big site, and I think it would be really good, and I think it's fair that council works further with the car club to investigate this, and hopefully we get a shed site for them on this parcel of land. So yeah, happy to support it.
Councillor Vallelonga and then Councillor Goldstein.
It's just a shed that they're building, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not going to be no movement on that. Not much at all. You know, just got to put a couple of piers down and they'll be all right.
Well, I think what the motion is suggesting is getting that work done, which would be quite useful. Yeah. Sorry? Well, getting that work done so you understand what the foundation will look like. If it's a thicker foundation, which will provide stability, you know, we've got to win.
I'm building something, hopefully, on a dump site. And what it is, you don't have to have thicker footings, you just have to have the right piers, and that holds the footings.
Yes.
That's the way I see it. Would I be right?
Yeah. That's right. Councillor Goldstein?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. The only question I've got, Councillor Shanks, is there's no time frame mentioned in the motion, and whether there needs to be.
Councillor Kosh?
Yeah, I've just got a question. Are we looking at doing investigations for what's A, B and C, or are we just looking at a preferred site, for example, C? And that might be a question to the car club.
I'll allow Councillor Shanks to answer that.
Yes, good question, Councillor Kosh. What that markup is just some examples of where a shed could be. I would say that you would do an investigation in A to a similar bore log that was done previously. You would do one, and you would start seeing what that came back with. If it started being that it was unviable, you would move to B and then C. You wouldn't commit to a 6 or 7 bore log pressure test in one area if you didn't get a result that you liked in the first result, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Another question?
Clarify. So you do one borehole in A, and then it'd be off the cards because you're into an old dump. You do a little borehole on the corner of B, and you'd probably get a bad result. So you just forget about that one, and you go straight to C. Is that what would happen? More or less?
I'll get you to put your mic on, Nathan, just so everyone can hear you.
What you're looking at there, and you're basing your assumption on, which is not wrong, is the report that notes that there was old brickworks happening there and a potential fill. Now, that's not to say that you can't build in fill. And if you start getting a KPA rating at 2 meters deep into fill, that's 200 KPA, you can build a pier into that. You don't need natural. It's so if that purple hatching, you would do, yes, first investigation there and see, you chase and see how it would go, and depending on the depth that report would come back at, then you'd make another commercial decision to say, do we still keep chasing this area, or do we move to B, or do we move to C?
Yep, okay. I'm gonna go to Councillor Fraser.
Can I ask the question, why wouldn't you start off with C?
Well, I think it's a methodical approach rather than just plucking it out of the air. There has been boreholes done which the Car Club pulled out of previously, but that was in a slightly different site. So I think the motion is saying undertake further investigations, and I think that's a methodical approach, and you'll get factual answers which can give you, provide hopefully some options going forward.
Further question, can we ask the staff when they would be able to get something like this done?
So what I might do now is refer to the CEO, make some comments on that.
Yeah, if I could, before I go to the time frame issue, is we know that the Car Club, if I recall, spent about $6,000 on the drilling that they did on portion of land like
It was perpendicular. It was perpendicular to that.
Mark A.
But it was also perpendicular as well.
No, it was Mark A, which was in that exact location. And so depending on, there's no parameters here in terms of how far do we go, and I'm assuming based on what Nathan's saying, and we get a contractor in and we're going to look at portion B and portion C. And I'm happy to talk with Nathan about this subsequently to reduce costs, but at the same time, is there a sense of, is it a $10,000 or $15,000 or a $20,000 investigation process that council's happy for me to progress? Because, there's no budget sort of parameter there. So that's one response, if I could, and get some clarity. The other one is that when we were looking at the location for the Car Club and we were concentrating on area A, that was deliberative relative to hoping that the closer we get to the boundary, the more likelihood we might get natural turf as opposed to fill, and also positioning the building as close as we could to Little Paxton Street, because there are operational requirements for the depot. And so building B and to a greater degree building C, will encroach in that operational requirements, and which is all part of the investigations, and we'll report that back to council. But I don't have a sense of, well, how much money do we want to spend on these investigations?
So I'm going to hand that back to you, Nathan. You're the mover of the motion. My view would be you'd need a monetary amount that provides clarity and parameters for staff to understand how far they go.
Yeah, look, I get that, Mayor. Unfortunately, not being a geotech, I can't give you that budget because I don't know when you'll find the KPA. But just to clarify here, yes, bore logs were done. That's not a KPA test. Your soil bearing capacity test is actually a different test. A geotech can do that test. You can even get the same geotech that did the original bore logs if you want someone that knows the site. But for me to turn around and say, oh, you know what, Henry, spend 20 grand on it, I can't do that. You might get the soil bearing capacity in 3 boreholes at the front, and therefore you only pay for 3. You might be chasing it for 10. So yes, I acknowledge that it's a gamble, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't see you spending, upwards of anywhere over 20. But, I would be.
Well, I would suggest put up to 20,000.
Okay.
I think there needs to be a parameter,
Yes.
because otherwise you might come back and it'll be more than that. So I think up to 20, it gives staff an upper limit.
Yeah, look, I'm happy with that.
I don't have a sense of how much it will cost.
Yeah.
Staff might have more of a sense, but up to 20, and then we can always bring that back to a special council meeting if need be.
Yeah, look,
Okay.
yeah, look, I'm happy with the figure
happy
there,
with
if that's
that?
what we need on there.
These
But yeah,
investigations. Yeah. Thank you, Jordan.
I hope the soil bearing capacity definition makes sense, is different to the standard bore log. Yeah.
So in regard to time frame, CEO,
Well, staff are completely at capacity. We're trying to deliver a whole number of projects, but if this is project number one, then we'll reprioritise everything and get onto this. However, realistically, in terms of, the difficulty in getting contractors in and who might actually do the work, we've got caretaker coming in on 6th of September. How critical is this relative to this council, or, within the next 2 or 3 months, I think would be a reasonable time frame to then report back to council.
so report back to council within the current term, I think, of council. Within the current term of council. So which is, yeah. Jordan, from a governance point of view, that's appropriate? There we go. So we've got a time frame, we've got a cost, we've got a ballpark cost. We can always, if there's an issue with the cost, we can bring that back and deal with it through a special council meeting or something like that. Yeah, Councillor Fraser.
If we're in caretaker mode and this comes back, can we vote on it? Because it's already come to council, we can then vote on
I
it.
think we can. Jordan, some advice in that regard?
So a decision in this respect would fall under clause 2.9 of our caretaker policy, which is a major policy decision because it's a decision that is widely discussed within the community and may become an election issue. At that point, it's a decision of yourself, Mayor, and the CEO as to the appropriateness to bring it back to council at the time that it's proposed. So there's nothing wrong with this going back. There's nothing from a governance perspective that's wrong with this motion, and then it can be addressed at the time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Samble.
Thanks, Mayor Karen, and thank you, Nathan, for the work you've done here putting this together. But, like I just heard the CEO said that the car club paid, well, $7,000 they paid. Been through a lot of trauma and all that sort of stuff. Then all of a sudden we start to talk and the club is happy too with the site between the bowling club and the tennis courts. Am I to understand that that site now is completely out of vision? Because if it is, and if this council is going to expect our car club, which I've been a member of for a lot of years and paid a lot of money into that $7,000 that was paid to dig holes to just see if there's any worms down there. I'm out of it altogether if this council is going to muck around the car club any more down the line, because they don't want to be mucked around. They are 760 members of people in this community that want a home. And I'm just stunned, but I thank Nathan for opening up the vision again with this, but I also wonder why our engineers never found those sort of things in the first place when we first got the report. So we won't ask any more questions there. But I will not be supporting my car club that I'm a proud member of, to be paying any more money into asking this council to build a club room for one of the largest clubs in this district.
So I might, Nathan, if you can address that when you wrap up. Yep. Thank you. Any other discussion at this stage? Nathan, you can, Councillor Shanks, sorry, you can wrap up the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I thank elected members, the Mayor and the CEO. I think we've massaged a couple of points there that could be sticking points and could cause a couple of delays. The reality is to get a contractor in to do the testing that's needed, the material needed and everything like that is very minimal. We employ these geotechs quite regularly, as engineers do as well. And sometimes we need test results really quickly, because sometimes we'll be digging a footing and we'll come across some fill or some ground or something that wasn't expected, and we might need a soil capacity test. If it doesn't pass, we might need to go deeper. This is not out of the ordinary, but it is something that is required when talking about footing size. Jim, you're absolutely correct. However, the tests that I'm talking about will either substantiate previous tests that are done, but it's needed for an engineer to be able to design what depth that footing would go down. You're absolutely right that it's a shed. If it's designed properly, it won't move. Deputy Mayor David Hughes, yes, absolutely. A transportable sitting on a field site could be subject to some movement. Unfortunately, some of them are sat on better blocks and some road base. So it's not the structural integrity. It's not that you're nodding, so I can take that as exactly what it was. So it's not the structural integrity that we're talking about when we're talking about a portal frame in a 2 metre deep footing that alone has so much soil capacity going friction down on a, that's how that point load works, different to a transportable. So these tests that are regularly done is the next part of the story that I think we need done on a land that has historic use, that is not necessarily stable, but it should be noted that compaction is something that we chase in the building industry by 300 mil layers, and we roll it out and then we test. Compaction is also released naturally as well. And that capping, whenever it was done, however long ago, will have a natural compaction rate as well that could be viable, could not be viable, but we are not going to know until we do these tests. And I think, the other option is to sit on this parcel of land with nothing and not have the potential house for a very strong club, as Councillor Samble pointed out. And I think the appetite was clear that this council does want to help the car club with our previous motion of supporting a $90,000 potential spend on a shed that on the side of the rec centre, which, as we know, is not going to be viable to housing this potential club. So if we want to spend 90,000 there, I'm saying let's spend the smarter money on this site. Let's activate this site that I think we can all agree is better suited for a car club of this nature. Thank you.
The debate is closed. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, right. So now we move to decision reports, and I'm on page 7. Anytime you're ready, councillors. You happy to move that way, Councillor Vallelonga? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Little, do you wish to speak at all? Councillor Little, do you wish to speak at all? Any discussion on this matter? Page 7. So the officer's recommendation has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this matter? If not, mover, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. (10.2). Councillor Koch.
I'd like to move this with an amendment. Amendment is just that notes that council has not made a determination on the alternative landfill, and the reason for that is that.
So you're happy to move that motion as it is on the board?
Yeah, it's an amendment to what's actually here.
Yep.
And the reason I've added the amendment is that the landfill alternative is a really big decision that Norma would need to make. Norma's made up of 3 councillors, as we know, and Norma has been working on a number of alternatives, And I think we're going to get a report, or we're getting a workshop in a couple of weeks.
We are.
So that's probably when we're going to look at it. But I just wanted to flag and just to say that we haven't made a decision on that, and it's still pending, just so the community knows that we are looking at it and we haven't made a decision yet, because it's such a big decision. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Little, do you wish to speak at all?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Councillor Cost said, I'm chair of the Balefield Committee. We're having a discussion actually next Monday in relation to alternative sites as well, because the one we're using at the moment is just about at its end date, which is good. It's being done in a brilliant way. It's meets all the guidelines, produces solar, does everything that we wish it to do. So I agree with Councillor that the next big decision though is going to be a big one, because some of the sites I haven't been happy with what they've looked at. So for us to defer, I think it's the best way to go.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Kosh, you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 10.3, Ageing World Draft Framework Update, that we adopt the framework. Been a lot of work done, lots of good work by the consultants. You happy to move that way, Councillor Vallelonga? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldstone. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we move on to 10.4, Behavioural Management Framework. Any feedback? If there's any feedback, or that we note the Local Government Association Consultation Behavioural Management Framework report be noted. Councillor Goldstone.
That we just note the report, the framework be noted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.5. You happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Do I have a seconder, Councillor Davies? Does any discussion on this matter? Councillor Kosh? Oh, Councillor Davies, you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. I think the climate emergency stuff, I think, has been, I know it's a little frustrating that we've been trying to get it through to the LGA for a while, and now the state government's declared it, and you know there's been a seismic political shift, and I think people are going to have to start to realise that if you fail to take action on climate, then you might lose all of your safe seats to independents at the federal election, for example. And I think this is something that we just have to acknowledge and make them acknowledge that this is important and it's happening.
Yeah, and I think Gawler, town of Gawler has proven that the world has not fallen in as a result of declaring a climate emergency. Funny about that. That was one of the big criticisms of declaring an emergency, and it actually hasn't transpired. Yeah, I think it's worth another crack at the AGM and see where we go. There's certainly been some questions whether we're going to put up another one from other councils. So I think other councils are hoping. So let's hope it gets through. Yeah, the bureaucratic process. Councillor Kosh.
Look, yeah, I've just got a comment. It's about the climate emergency again. It talks about enabling councils and the communities to better access renewable energy carbon offsets. I have a great concern about carbon offsets and their integrity. And unfortunately, when we look at our climate emergency plan and we're looking at to be carbon neutral by 2030, part of that is actually purchasing offsets. There is a lot of research and a lot of comment around about the actual integrity of those offsets. Will they actually achieve what they said they're going to do? And in particular, the last federal government changed the contracts around carbon offsets from a 10-year plan to a optional plan, which then flooded the market with offsets, which dropped the price of offsets from $50 to about $12. And now it's actually seen as almost an opportunity for businesses to operate as usual. So large multinationals that are digging holes in the ground and whatever, are buying offsets at very cheaply and saying that they're now carbon neutral when there's a lot of speculation around whether they actually do what they do. Because in some cases, some offsets can be sold 2-3 times the same offset. That's just my concern. It's in there now. I'm probably not going to want to change, but I just want to broach it with everybody that I am very concerned about the use of carbon offsets to achieve carbon neutrality.
I think it's really good that the ACCC has put it as their top priority around carbon offsets and the potential to do harm to the consumer.
Yeah,
and that's part of their remit. So that is one of their top priorities, is to try and clean up the market as it relates to carbon offsets.
Yeah, I think, but the issue though is what's happening is the carbon offsets are becoming a trading commodity, and the people are making a lot of money out of the trading of offsets, and the actual implementation on the ground, absorbing carbon from the atmosphere, it's a bit dubious in some respects. So just broaching that with everybody, that there's an issue, I think, around carbon offsets. And when we look at our climate emergency plan, we should really be looking more at trying to actually not produce carbon gases, the gas, greenhouse gases, and think very closely about what we do about offsets and whether we start buying them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion at this stage? If not, who moved the motion? Councillor Ballalonga? No, Deputy Mayor. Any other discussion? Sorry, Councillor Samble.
No, I was just wondering, that meeting that you and the Deputy Mayor go to, that's in the caretaker period. Does that play any position there?
That is the annual general meeting. And I'm not sure when the date is. It's usually October. So it's yes, it's during caretaker. Yeah, but you can still move motions at an AGM in caretaker. This motion doesn't bind us. It binds the LGA. It doesn't bind us. So we're asking the LGA to do some advocacy work and also accept that there is a climate emergency. So I think it's not binding on the new council, which is part of our policy, and it's also not costing us money because we've already declared a climate emergency. We've already got that in place. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor Samble. It can be a bit confusing during caretaker, that's true. No, we will be attending this. This AGM will happen before the new council comes in. Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, I'm going to put the motion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So the LGA president will come from the regions or the country regions rather than the metro region. So we don't have a role in putting up anyone for LGA president. I'm happy to be put up for Garrock, but we'll see what the council wants to do. Councillor Fraser. Okay. Councillor Fraser, do I have a seconder for that? Yeah, you happy to second that? Question, Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, just quickly. So this would be that they nominate for, is it a 12-month term?
It's 2 years. They do this every year, every council election, and it's actually been brought up, but the LGA in their wisdom has never changed the process.
Because if we turned around and said the council nominate Karen Redmond and just hypothetically, if you weren't successful, if you are choosing to run again,
Mm.
then what happens to that role? Do we have to put in the
It becomes a
mayor or-
casual vacancy. It becomes a casual vacancy. Well, Garrock is divided into 4 regions, north, south, east and west. We're part of the north. So there would be other nominations. So this is a nomination. It then goes to an election process with the other nominations for the north.
Yep.
And it comes back to council where council chooses a particular person.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then it's that person that then, and that's elected as part of the north. So all 4 councils that are in the north. So that's Salisbury, Playford, Tea Tree Gully and ourselves. And that person then goes to Garrett.
Yeah.
So this is just a nomination to be in the election process. Yeah,
Yeah, for next year, the timing's completely out.
I
Like-
agree. And
Yeah.
and Nathan, it's been brought up, I don't know how many times, but yeah, no, the LGA believe in their wisdom that this is a good process.
Okay.
And it will continue to be brought up, I'm sure. Okay, so Deputy Mayor has seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. We've got now local government, that the report be noted. So it's a noting report. It's an information report only. Are you happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Little? Any discussion? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, well, I will say that I went along to the last candidates forum and I thought it went quite well, and we had a different variety of people than the previous session, which was good. I was worried that we might have gotten everyone at the first session and then had a lonely second session, but no, there were a range of people. And I think it was good to get the opportunity to have a few council members come up and speak to their experiences and answer some questions about how do you know, for example, how do you deal with people who send you upset phone calls and that kind of thing that people want to know. So I think, yeah, that was quite good. I guess, next thing I need to look into is all of the stuff about the campaign period, and, you know, whether you can have, you know, councillor such and such on your Facebook page and all this during the campaign period. It would be good to get some clarification on that as it comes up.
Mm. There is a social media piece of work that the LGA's put out that it's probably worth looking at. Mm. Okay, Councillor Shanks. I'll just take Councillor Shanks first. There you go, Nathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Cody just announced that he's running. You heard it here first. No, look, I think this report is good because, you know, we get a lot of information coming through and, you know, to potential candidates that may be running for the first time, or I think the points here, just even on the page 1, where it's just roll close, 5 p.m. on the Friday, you know, it goes through those. I think those are very, very important dates to have. So I thank you, Jordan, for itemising all them for us. And not only us, also the people that came along to the candidates both nights. I unfortunately missed the first one. But yeah, look, I'm really excited to see what comes of the November 22 elections and seeing what people want to put their hands up, because it is an important role that we all play. Yes, we don't always agree, but it is all part of the democracy that is. So yeah, I'm excited to, I guess, you know, share these dates through our own networks and really get the word out there for those who are interested in running again. So yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, you happy? Oh, sorry, Councillor Sample.
The only thing that I have had asked to me is where it says if you nominate to become a councillor, is there a form? Because there's none in this leaflet that's been handed out.
They haven't.
So how do
released
people
any
know
forms.
about nominating who, where? Was it done by Facebook? all these sort of things. I'm just wondering, there's a gap there somewhere because people say, oh, is there a form that I need to
Yeah.
fill out?
The forms haven't been released yet. The form, Brian, the forms haven't been released. They will be released. As soon as the forms, etc., are available, we will be told, and that will be circulated, Jordan. Thank you.
Because the process has slightly changed for this period because of the local government reforms, EXA are doing a review of those and will be wholly managing the nominations process. So as soon as we have those, we'll be circulating them. They'll be available through council through the normal channels.
Thank you. So if there's no further discussion, Deputy Mayor, you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move on to information reports, and we have 3. We can move these en bloc if we wish. You happy to move that way? Move item 11 en bloc, moved by Councillor Vallelonga. Do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Hughes has seconded. Any discussion? Mover, do you wish to speak at all? Seconder, do you wish to speak? Give you the opportunity first. So I saw Councillor Davies, and then I think I saw Councillor Shanks. Did you put your hand up? And then Councillor Kosh, in that order.
Yeah, so I guess speaking to the Civic Centre, well, the youth space has been doing well. I actually went along to help out with a program in the past week about learning to podcast, and I think that went quite well. And we had a split out into a few groups that made their own podcasts, which has been quite promising. And in terms of periodic adjustment of council member allowances, I do want to mention, since this has come up as a debate point on Facebook and other places, that we're not making this decision. Even if we vote it down, we'd still be getting paid the updated amount, because this is not a council member decision. We're put into a category based on the size of our council. They say category 2 councils or whatever get this amount, and that's how it works. So, but yeah, happy to move this.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I'd love to be able to say that we actually make $15,920.50 a month, which is as reported on page 51. We might want to just do that as a typo just before Cody's throwing out there that we do get paid this amount. If we did get paid that amount, I think I'd be comfortable in saying, yes, my time that I do spend as an elected member is covered just. But the area councillor role, as we know, we're not doing it for the money. I mean, bloody hell, I'd be on apprentice wages again if I was doing it for the money. But it is important to note these periodic adjustments, and as Councillor Davies points out, they are just a matter of process following through. Just touching on the hub update, which I'll probably reaffirm in the motion that I've got coming up in motions on notice. Good to see the youth centre thriving as always. It's a very positive space. The one question I did have was around the cafe. It's reported in the report as there was a loss, and I didn't quite catch the amount of that loss. Am I able to pass that through you, ma'am?
Sure. Who would like to answer that?
Through the chair, I'll have to take that on notice.
Take it on notice?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kosh, you're next.
Now, I just want to talk about the Civic Centre report, and I go down to page, where is it? I've got it here somewhere. Here we go. Page 39 of 62, and part C, it says it says provide a venue for the arts that would attract locals, visitors and tourists and provide a spin-off for other business ventures. I assume that's talking about developing the arts community in our town? Is that
I
what
think
that's?
so.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what it
thought-
says to me.
Yep. So I'm just wondering what strategies we've got in place to achieve that. For example, are we looking at having someone, a staff member coordinate that? And also, I'm just wondering, also now that we've got the gallery as well, are those two spaces going to be coordinated together?
CEO?
Yes, the oversight of both the Civic Centre and the VIC are sort of occurring hand in glove, and wherever there are sort of spin-offs and opportunities and making sure that one doesn't conflict with the other, that's certainly been part of the management oversight. In terms of, visitors will provide spin-offs for other business ventures. Well, that's more of providing an opportunity for the arts to perform here, to have different groups come. Hopefully that then generates relationships in the business community, arts community, and that then generates opportunities. Not necessarily that council is doing anything other than that in the first instance, but where there are opportunities through those conversations, then we'll be pursuing them and advocating accordingly.
Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Vallalonga, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So now I'm on page 52 of the agenda. Recommendations from committees. We've got some motions made under delegated authority that we note the adopted motions. So that is one that's over the page, including the policy review, so that we note the adopted motions. You have to move that way, Councillor Goldstone, seconded by Councillor Vallalonga. There's no further discussion. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we move to the recommendations. We've done 12.1.2. I'm doing 12.1.1 on page 53. Community grants. Yes. So this was had quite a bit of debate, and it also had some email traffic. There's two options here. We can defer this completely to the new council, or we could amend the caretaker policy to remove community grants and do the whole process now. But that doesn't also, in our policy, it does state that any decision is binding on a new council, and this would come up during caretaker. My view, for what it's worth, is we should defer this to the new council. I just think if we do it half and half, we're binding the new council because they're recommending, and I just think we should defer it to the new council. I just think it's a better process. Are you happy to move that way? Does that answer your question? Yeah. You happy to move that way, Councillor Little? And you, I think you were going to second it, Councillor Shanks. Yeah, that defer the 222, whatever the motion number is, to well, it's for the new council to consider whatever the appropriate wording is. I just think that's a cleaner way than fiddling with a caretaker policy or splitting the process. Thank you, Jordan. I think that covers that really well. So if people are comfortable with that, you're happy with that, Councillor Little, with that wording? You're happy with that, Councillor Shanks? So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any discussion? Councillor Davies.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think I'll vote for it. It's not my number one preference, just because it means that the recipients of the community grants are going to be getting them months later. And so, but, that's how it goes, I guess, unfortunately. I think it is something that, I mean, we probably should look at adding community grants to the list of non-major decisions, because I've never had, I don't believe I've ever seen controversy during the community grants approval process. It comes up, people say that, yeah, that looks good. People seem to have done a good job, but at narrowing these down so that they all fit the legal requirements. And then we go ahead with it. Like, it's never been never been major in that sense, but yeah, maybe something to look at in the future is a review of our major decisions policy.
Our caretaker policy, I agree. I don't know where that came from, but I think that it shouldn't be in there. But I don't think now is the time to do it. I think that's a little bit tricky. Okay, so we've got a mover and a second. We've had some discussion. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I think if members recall, I think Councillor Little and myself were making this point at the CCS about this, but I also take on board the need to have a relook, because I think this is a bit clunky now, and it all comes down to the timing, obviously. But as the Mayor pointed out, trying to manipulate that process now is just going to make it even clunkier, I believe. So yeah, it's unfortunate we do have to wait those extra couple of months, but I think this process is a bit cleaner, and yeah, allows the new council to be able to direct the grants accordingly. So I'm happy to support the deferral.
Any other discussion? If not, who moved the motion? I can't see. Was it Councillor Vallelonga? It was Councillor Little who moved it, and Councillor Shanks seconded. So Councillor Little moved it and Councillor Shanks seconded. Awesome. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Little, I'm going to put that motion. You happy with that? All those in favour, please raise your hand. If we can do it, all those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. So thank you, councillors. I'm over the page on Gawler Fringe now. Are you happy to move that way?
Request for some information regarding the in-kind. I don't think that's been presented yet.
No, through the chair. Linda's been off sick, so we've not been able to gather the information, but that is coming soon.
Right. Okay. So that's a couple of weeks ago. Right. When will we get that information?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Shanks' follow-up question, Councillor Kosh, sorry, his follow-up question came on Friday, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Do I have someone who's prepared to move the motion? So we're 12.1.3. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? You happy to second, Councillor Fraser? Any discussion? There's no further discussion. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Gawler Civic Centre lower ground floor meeting room usage review. Just an update. I've actually sent some letters to Jason Clare, who's the, I don't know what minister he is, but he's a relevant minister for, and I've also sent a number of letters through Matt Burnell, our local federal member, challenging the fact that we're not eligible through regional development grants. We also put in ABS data around the really low uptake in tertiary education, including TAFE, which is really the crux of the matter. And it also feeds into the lack of access to really good quality internet services, which I think Councillor Hughes, Deputy Mayor Hughes, highlighted very effectively, when you've got to turn off your devices around the house to get a decent connection. So that's all incorporated in these letters that we've sent. I spoke with Mr. Burnell as well, and I'm hoping we can get some traction. Who knows? it's worth a try. So just so you're aware. Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I think this is, you know, I mentioned it at the CCS meeting, but I think university level study has got a hurdle for people who are living here. It is, you know, if they want to go and meet with someone at the study in university, it's going to be over an hour to get there and over an hour to get back. It is a significant commitment out of their day. And so I think, you know, being able to offer something for students here would be really valuable. And yeah, I just really would like us to, because we've had discussions around our membership of the RDA, and, you know, we pay to be a member of Regional Development Australia because for those purposes we're considered a regional town. And, you know, if we get knocked back for grants and things because we're metro area, then still you're wondering, well, so where are we? What are we? Who are we? So I'd like to get that clarified.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Fraser.
That reminds me of years ago when here in Gawler, when you had to go through, I'm trying to think of the name now, the telephone people anyway, and we were classified as country because you had to pay more for your phone calls. When it came to your motor vehicle registration, we were classified as metropolitan because you had to pay more, and that was a double standard. That was two businesses where they conflicted.
It's the same in health. Whatever costs more. Yeah, that's been a long-standing issue, and it deserves to be challenged. Okay, any other discussion? If not, we've got a mover and second. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. External bodies reports. We've got the Norma board minutes. You happy to move that way, Councillor Kosh, and somebody else? Thank you, Councillor Samble, seconded. Any discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. There are no questions on notice. Questions without notice. We have two hands up, Councillor Fraser and Councillor Shanks and Councillor Vallelonga. Three hands up. And Councillor Samble, four hands up.
I noticed the other day that the bike path from the Barossa to the Wheatsheaf has been completed.
Yeah, my husband's been riding on it.
But my question is that we were told that when that was finished, that Sunnydale Avenue and Lingdock Road, the corner there, would be done. So my question is, do we have a time frame on that?
Wendy?
Yes, through the chair. So we're still waiting for DIT to approve that plan, and we have agitated as much as possible and still aren't getting a response. So we will continue to agitate.
If we can get an update within a couple of weeks for the elected members, is that okay?
Yep, sure.
Thank you. Now, next, I think, was Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I'm just looking for an update on how the collating of community feedback / reviews going for the Edith Street Short and Blanche issue. And also, will the letter from Tony Piccolo be included in that report?
Wendy?
Obviously, so the consultation finished a couple of weeks ago, and we've got the draft URPS report that consolidates all the different community feedback, both through the survey, through the forums and through other letters that we received. We can certainly include the letter that we received from Tony Piccolo in that, noting that we've also had other resident feedback as a result from that letter from Tony Piccolo as well. So for fullness of information, we'd be looking to include that information as well. At the present time, I'm working with Jane Lovell from FMY to try and understand the statistics and really come up with what is, what are the options that are most practical to address all of the feedback holistically.
Okay. So will you take it on notice and let us know when it will be coming back to council?
I mean, the intention is to present a council report in August.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Now, who was next? Councillor Vallelonga.
Just an update on the aspired homes, on the what's happening there. Is there any updates on that?
I'll refer that to the CEO.
As members are aware, there was a confidential report presented to council on this. I'll be a little bit careful what I say in the public forum, but it's on the public record that we are in the courts, in the ERD court relative to the childcare centre proposal within the reserve space, and there is an intrinsic link between the issues associated with the land division, these allotments, and that open space area. So unfortunately, we're not any closer to a resolution, and we have got those court proceedings in the ERD court.
Okay, thank you. I think that's probably as much as you're going to get at this stage, Councillor Vallelonga. It might be, yeah. We need to be very careful, yeah. That might be the way to go. Now, Councillor Samble, I think you were next.
Thanks, Mayor Karen. Yeah, I'm just wondering, there was a fair bit of hullabaloo about somebody trying to brighten up the southern entry, Rusty Spades. I just wonder if there's any update on what happened there, because they still look all alive to me today. And the other thing is, I know we're going to get the answer that it's nothing to do with us, but the community is now saying again, and you've only got to drive out of Gawler or come into Gawler, and the jungle's getting higher and higher. Are we going to cut the grasses along the side of the road to make at least the entry look as though somebody cares, or is it just going to be left to Dip Tie to do it sometime? And and to do with the Rusty Spades, is if there was a sign erected, everybody that's spoken to me on it said, well, how about putting a sign there to tell us what they are? Because everybody's given a different impression of what they are. To me, they're scrap metal, and we'd probably get a fair bit of money if we took them out and took them back.
Wendy, I think there were two questions about the verge, again, dealing with the state government department and them getting their contractors to cut the grass, and also you keep turning it off. Turn it on. That's it. Now you're right.
Thank you. Through the chair. Sorry, I haven't got the hang of the microphone.
No, they are quite complex actually. Not straightforward.
Councillor Samble, if it's okay, I'll take your questions on notice and get the answers back from our Town Services Department.
Thank you very much. Any other questions about notice? Thank you, elected members. So now we're moving. Now, Councillor Shanks, you've got a motion here. Would you like to present your motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, the Business Innovation Hub has been one of those initiatives that I don't think we've quite got it to the success and level that we need it to be. I was a little bit concerned about, putting it in staff's remit, and that's not a crack at staff. That's just understanding the private enterprise sort of space. I would have liked to see a different management model. Now that said, I didn't have the numbers on the day, so here we are. But I think what we're calling for, what I'm trying to call for here, offers a level of reporting that I think we need for the Business Innovation Hub. It's being watched by our business community, and if we did have an external operator, this is the sort of data we would request back. As elected members, we need these streams of data to make informed decisions. We run through, I've just itemize them there because it should be easy enough to gather and report on. For me, the Business Innovation Hub is a standalone report. It shouldn't be tied into the Civic Centre in the same way that we wouldn't have expected that from an external management operator. And I think we owe it to this time, which is our second go at it, to ensure that we are reporting transparently. And if there are any successes or any areas for improve, we identify early in the piece. You know, we had the previous manager, which it took a bit to figure out that, you know what, it probably wasn't the best fit at the time. So look, I've just set these very simple, easy KPIs to give a little bit of a template, I guess, on what this report would be reporting on. And then we should be able to compare it quarter by quarter. We'll run concurrently with the Civic Centre report being quarterly. And I don't see it being that hard to put together, and it is a good move to be able to report back to our business community. So I hope I can get the support on this one, and yeah, look forward to seeing it if we get it across the line.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, happy to second it. I think this is, I know, a reasonable set of requests. We did get in our Civic Centre report for this meeting a bit on the Business Innovation Hub that mentions the, you know, how many members we have and such. But to me, that's probably the least interesting part of the whole process. I think where we ended up having trouble previously was on the question of, well, are any of them planning to move on, or are any of them planning to, you know, have they found new premises, or, you know, are we helping them? So I think just those other aspects of the business, the Business Innovation Hub, I think are worth getting a report on.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, look, I've got a question. I just assumed this was going to be a one-off report. Is this actually the template that we'll actually be adopting for reporting?
Well, what this says is receive separate quarterly reports on the Business Innovation Hub that report on
Okay,
the following.
that. Oh, sorry, I didn't read it. I didn't read it. Yep.
Separate, quite clear, really.
Could I just ask the CEO whether this is an appropriate reporting mechanism?
Okay. CEO, if you'd like to respond.
Yep.
Sure. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Shanks, you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Motions without notice. Yep.
I'll try my hand at this one, but we'll see how I go. That council up the word limit to 1,000 words for elected members' preamble.
I think that should be a motion on notice.
I knew you might say that, but I thought I'd try it out.
1,000 words is an essay.
1,000, yeah, but I mean, I had 600 words for the car club, and look how handy that preamble was. I mean, do council staff have a word limit? But anyway.
You're more than welcome to put up a motion on notice and test the waters. Okay. Any other motions without notice? No. Okay. Thank you. Council member attendances and activities, and we have Gawler and District Health Advisory minutes. Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I always enjoy reading, and I think there is a request for a meeting with the hospital, the local health network CEO and senior management, and the chair of the HAC, Kathy Crossing, as well. Yep. Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just and with the Barossa Hills Fleurieu region or local health area network, we've got a new chair. His name's Jim Hazel. He's an accountant, but he's also on about 4 or 5 different boards. The one I remembered the most, I think, comes to mind was Cooper's. So yeah, he I accompanied him on a tour of the whole site last week, and he's quite keen to be pretty proactive. He's brand new to the role. He has got a history as a chair and director of a lot of health, aged health homes and things like that as well. So he does have a bit of a background in that area, but he seems really keen on the whole site and working with Gawler, and for us to get things like even the Medicare license for x-rays and things like that for the different MRI machine that we've got there, and just trying to get better usage of the site and future planning. So it's really encouraging. Can I also go through the events that I've been to?
Absolutely.
So I represented the Mayor at NAIDOC Week event that was held here, which was co-run by Gawler Council and the Gawler Health Network, and yeah, kudos to the Gawler staff, council staff. They basically set it up with a little bit of help from the hospital staff at the end, but they did a fantastic job. The CEO was there, Tony Piccolo, and what I really noticed was really good was the staff, our staff and other staff, but there was also police officers there interacting with the kids and everything else, and it was a real family-friendly event, which went really well. Also, with the CEO and the Mayor and Paul Horwood, we've had a couple of meetings with the Show Society people, which have there's been a lot of work, and there's been some really good work done there, which was really good. And yeah, some other catch-ups with staff on other matters as well. But yeah, it's been a busy month. Thanks.
I'm going to go through some of the activities I've been engaged in. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for representing me at those events. We've had the Youth Sponsorship Awards ceremony where we give $100 to, oh, see you, Jim. $100 to young people who are representing the state or engaging in national championships. So we had hockey, mainly hockey, but it was really, really good. And they all are able to speak publicly and talk about their experiences when they're at these major events, which is really fantastic. They acknowledge their parents, which I think is really, really important because it costs quite a lot of money to send kids interstate and overseas. Went to the Gawler Rotary Club President Changeover meeting, which was, it's always a really, really good night. Aging Well Framework, I went to a community consultation there, and that was really, really interesting. Went to the 20th anniversary of the Gawler Road Safety Group. They do really, really good work, and I think that long may they continue. I went to the Williston Football Club Sponsors Day, and that was really enjoyable, catching up with lots of different people there. They've got a big vision for their site, and I know that all the football clubs have big visions for each of their sites, so I look forward to further discussions in that regard. We launched our free FOGO service, food organics and garden organics, which is FOGO, free bins for people. There's 70% of Gawler residents take food out of their bin. We do a really, really good job with the circular economy in this town. We're up to, I think, 51% with recycling, which comes from the corporate or the community scorecard, which is quite a useful data depository. Is that the right word? Not quite. It's not a suppository, it's a depository, I think. Anyway, it's a really good site to get information from, and that's going really, really well. We've got lots of engagement on social media for that FOGO service. So I think we can get up even higher than 70%, which is just fabulous. What else? I met with Nick Champion with Shelter SA, and I noticed that the Renewal SA board has a focus on affordable housing. And we, in fact, talked to the Minister about affordable housing and different models to deliver on the housing crisis, which is quite bad in South Australia. And I think that that was a really useful discussion, and I'm looking forward to see what the board does. Let's hope they do deliver on their aims, which really Renewal SA need to change their charter about making a profit for the government. They need to actually improve social outcomes, and I think we need to keep up the lobbying in regard to improving social outcomes rather than just making money for the government, which I think has not worked at all. And that's it for me. Yeah, it's been a really busy. We had a meeting with SA Water in regard to the Whispering Wall, the Barossa Reservoir, and that was really good to have a discussion with them. And that was, they're doing some really good things with the way they manage water and reservoirs, but they also manage stormwater. I was able to feed back around the 2016 flood and about response times in regard to spilling over of reservoirs and how we communicate between local and state government departments, and that was a really useful discussion. So that's my month for attendance. Any Councillor Koch?
Yeah, I just want to quickly touch on the, I went to, Councillor Davies also attended the Governing Council meeting last night. I always find it very enlightening going to those meetings because they really do have a really good focus on educational outcomes, in particular the consistency through the grades, and they're getting some really great outcomes with their students, so that's great to see. The biggest issue at the moment is the parking down the bottom and behind Aldi. And they will be coming to council offices to look at how they can solve some issues down there. It's quite congested and there's some safety issues there that need to be really resolved. So that's the big thing that we need to look at, how we assist them down there. Thank you. Unless Cody, you've got anything to add on that?
Cody?
Yeah, look, Gawler District College that we're talking about, I don't know, having a master plan and various other things for what they're going to do around parking and everything in the future, and what Aldi wants to do in terms of where they want to have their exits and all these kinds of things is another point of discussion. So they're just trying to get that all cleared up.
Okay, lovely. Any other elected member activity? No worries. So we have the council notes, and I think that we include the verbal updates from the Mayor and council members. I'm happy to accept a mover and a seconder. You're happy to move that way? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Little, any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We've done our confidential reports. I close the meeting. 9:30. Awesome. Awesome work.